right, everyone. So, welcome to another episode of Wholesaling the Cool Way. We're going live today for about the next hour or so. So, if you guys are tuning in live, just drop your name, drop where you're tuning in from, and drop your questions. Drop them anytime. Don't feel bad about interrupting us or anything. We'll get to them as soon as we can. And you can ask questions about anything. It's a real estate podcast where my dad and I talk about our respective businesses and just try to help other people that are, whether you're new, experienced, whatever. You can drop your questions about anything related to real estate or just business in general, and we'll be happy to get to them. So, without further ado, we like to jump straight in, usually going over our past week in business, and we could share some deal stories or just some business stories. Do you want to jump into your week in business?
Yeah, sure. Um, let's see. I was trying to get this live up here too, so I can watch for the chat. Let's see. For the week in business, we sold one this week. We were just talking about that, Jasper. We sold a deal with you, JB. So thanks for finding a buyer for that deal. It was one we haven't had it very long, and we got what we thought was a good price on this house in Edgecombe County, North Carolina. About 20 grand purchase price for us, and I think the retail on that's I can't remember what's one mid 100s, right? 150, 170, somewhere in there. And we're trying to get an answer on deals really fast, and we had reached out, done our investor base outreach and our own internal buyer list outreach, our VIP buyers, all that stuff, and we still hadn't had anything really good. We had one guy walk through and a couple people pass on it. Even New Western passed on it because they only
Oh
funny
yeah,
they say they only go to 1930 and it's
yeah,
1926. Like, why would you go to 1930 anyway? And if you're going to 1930, why wouldn't you just look at 1926?
right.
Um, but anyway, so year built was an issue for this property just because it has older systems and people get worried about that. And so anyway, Jasper was able to find us a buyer. So thanks, Jasper. Shout out to you, and credit to you for building a great buyer list and great systems with your dispo and being able to find somebody where we were having trouble. So
Yeah,
we're going
thank
to
you.
hopefully close that one. I don't know what you, I didn't look at the docs on that. What's the estimated closing timeline?
Oh, Derek told me the 17th of September, so we can close sooner. The buyer's all cash, but that's what he told me.
Yeah,
So that's what we
I
set it
think,
up for.
well, we've got a tenant in there, so we got
Yeah,
to,
I gotta wait for them to move out.
yeah, that's, and they don't have a lease and they know it's being sold and everything. And I think they've been really cooperative with the showing process and everything, inspection. So they should be, knock on wood, hopefully they're good
Yeah,
to go.
awesome.
Um, but yeah, so we sold one. We didn't close any this week. We've got a few in escrow still. One's in Ohio, a couple in North Carolina. I did learn a thing about Ohio. I think I shared that with you already, Jasper. That well, no, it was a guy who was talking on our podcast, right, about Ohio. God. Well, anyways, a wholesaler from Ohio, was saying that it really hasn't changed much. Them passing that law that
Hmm.
you just have to market it as an assignment. Oh no, I was on a call. This is what it was. I was on a Resimply training, and the guy who's doing the training is a wholesaler in Ohio. And so dropped in the chat, how do you get around the law, against wholesalers? And he was like, oh, it's not really an issue. We just have to market it and say it's an assignment. So you say for assignment when you're marketing your deal.
Oh, okay.
And he's not having any problem. It's business as usual. So that
That's
was
great.
interesting to hear because
That's
we
great
got
news.
scared when we really heard about the law. And then this one deal we're working on over there with a realtor, it's one of these realtors who's like, oh no, you can't wholesale here, and like you got to go through me and all this stuff. And so
Oh God.
Derek, my brother, was like, oh well, we might have just go through her. And so she's made the deal go really slowly, and she's charged us for both ends of an ABBC like $500 or $600 fee on each side, and it's
Wow.
just a mess. So it's really about the title company. I think this title company that we have in Ohio is really crappy from my experience. They're taking forever to close this thing. They're a title company and they're like waiting for title work. I'm like, what are you doing? You're a title company, like why is it taking a month to get title work back? So
I've got
anyway,
a great title company if you need one for Ohio. I've got a
oh yeah,
great, yeah,
yeah, I definitely love that. Yeah. Um,
I'll send that over to you.
So anyway, we got one deal in Ohio that hopefully will close this week finally, and then we've got one I think in North Carolina. It's going to close this week that had a lot of air affidavits and estate filings and stuff like that, but I think it's finally closing this week. So shout out to Taylor Law for getting that lined up to close. And
Nice.
yeah, we got another one that's we're still dealing with some title stuff that's not going to close this week, but hopefully we'll close soon. And what else do we have? We got 2 contracts this week. They're both vacant land. One's in Cumberland County, one's in Robeson County. So shout out to Wilson, our closer, for getting those locked down. And
Nice.
we're kind of slow on contracts. We're slowing on contracts because we're just really trying to do the stuff we can get at a good price, being more aggressive with getting low prices
Yeah.
because it's just buyers seem to be so conservative. We're not trying to like test the top end of the market. I'd much rather just put them in a follow-up sequence and let them get more low offers and hopefully lock them down in a month or 2 or 3. So, and we were low on offers this week. We were talking about this offline, but we sent 12 offers this week, which is, like a third of probably our average or less. Uh,
Hmm.
but we cut our scaled back our SMS output. That's part of it. We've had low response rate in SMS, so we've got to review our lists and, uh, we've saturated all the land and, all
Yeah.
in North Carolina. So we just have to get creative about our lists for this coming week and see if we can get better results. And then we should have direct mail dropping this week and actually start getting some inbound calls from that. So
Nice.
yeah, so that's what's going on in that realm. And then otherwise, still trying to sell a sub 2 we have in Fayetteville. I've got a showing today through MLS on that. And actually another guy went through there yesterday. And I told a story a while ago on our podcast about when we took this property over, subject to there was a guy living there who we ended up evicting. And I went to the courthouse to do the eviction on my side, and he was there. And, we're sitting in the lobby together and we talked a little bit and then went in and did the thing with the judge, and she found in our favor. And then I walked out to the parking lot with him, just like talked with him and stuff. And he was like, well, when you're ready to sell that, let me know, because I might be interested. And, so I shook his hand and promised that I would. And the story is his dad built that house for his mom, and he lived there, as a child.
Oh,
And
wow.
then, yeah. And then when these people who bought it I guess it went from his mom to his aunt, and then his aunt sold it to the people that we got it from. And then the people were in trouble and they were having a divorce and all these issues. And so this guy who we evicted moved in to help them out, but didn't pay any rent and started like a Section 8 hosting business in the house. And so anyway, so now he's asking me to go see the house, and he's got a wife, and it's just a really interesting situation. So
I
he
hope he
went through
buys it.
he went through there yesterday with his wife. Uh, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. So just interesting, just the stuff you run into with real
Yeah.
estate. But I'd shaken his hand and told him that I would give him the opportunity to buy it. So like if he can, show me that he could do it financially and everything, then we could talk about it. But uh, so that's that deal that we're still working on, and it's on the MLS. And then other business news, we did a Resimply onboarding with my team this week. We did like a tour with one of the, I guess, our customer service rep from Resimply, and he walked us through all the features and showed us how to use everything. So it looks pretty good. I have some red flags about Resimply customer service. I'm just not impressed so far. And I'm not trying to be, a complainer about it, but Jasper, you and I have talked about this. Is like, we've signed up for so many different platforms and companies and CRMs and things that the early customer service to me is something I pay attention to now, because it probably informs how my relationship with that company will play out over time, what their
Yeah.
service is going to be like. And so far, honestly, Resimply service is not impressive. Their onboarding guy that we met with was great, and the people that I have interacted with within their chat and stuff are very friendly and helpful, but not super knowledgeable at the same time. Like, they're relying heavily on their knowledge base and all the instructional videos and their FAQs and stuff, and they want to point you to that, But an example is that we're talking about moving over from Podio, and so I've been trying to get onboarding help. So I've been signed up with them since Friday a week, so now 10 days almost, and trying to get help importing my data from Podio. And they advertise white glove onboarding. And so people respond to my questions, but they don't know what they're talking about. And so they send me a thing and say, map your fields from your Podio CSV that you download to this map and upload it to our people and we'll put it on. But what they don't understand about Podio, and they should, because they're probably importing a lot of people from Podio, is that I can't map from my Podio phone number and email address because they're connected to a contacts app. So if I pull a CSV from my seller leads app, it doesn't have that information because it's embedded within the context. So I need somebody who actually understands that to help me on board to Resimply. And, like that's an example, and I don't want to get too technical, but I talked to like 4 people and they kept telling me the same thing. I was like, no, you guys don't understand. It's a little bit different with Podio. I need somebody who actually understands how Podio and Resimply will interface and help me. And so then I talked to the rep about this, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we got you covered. We'll get you. We know what's going on, and I'll get you with my import specialist." And then he sends me an email, and it's like another $2,000 charge for me to get the white glove onboarding when he told me he could do it. And I'm like, I'm already doing the enterprise plan. I expect white glove with that, but no, you get the VIP onboarding with, So it's just kind of. And the other thing was that kind of stuck the wrong way. It was like, oh, we have integrated e-sign, so you don't have to have an e-sign platform. But the thing that they don't tell you until we're doing this walkthrough is, yeah, it's $1 per document. So
Oh God.
if I'm doing like 10
That's
documents,
horrible.
and I think we do more, if you do 10 documents per week, then that's what, $40 a month.
That's terrible.
And an e-sign platform is less than that, right? And if you're doing more than 10 documents a week, so it's just little things like that that are kind of red flags for me, that I'm a week and a half in and I haven't had any help importing my data. And yeah, I could, dig in and figure it all out. But that's, if I'm paying for, an enterprise plan with a company, I expect to have more support than that. So
Yeah, I
anyway.
would definitely run.
So yeah, I
That's
mean, they have, and there's a lot of sizzle there, right? There's a lot of like, wow, you got all this and you got that and everything's in one place and you can do these things. And it's really cool, all the stuff you can do. But it was the same thing with the onboarding call. Like they give you a 2-week free trial, and the first call I could book for an onboarding was like a week and a half in. And I'm like, well, I don't want to onboard a week and a half in and have 3 days for my team to test the system before we
yeah,
commit. So, so then I had to push, and finally they moved up my onboarding. So those things are red flags for me. Like
yeah,
they've got a lot of cool tech, but you know. So anyway, we don't need to talk anymore about that. But if you have, I know we got a few people on the chat here. So if you have any experience with Resimply onboarding, or if you're on Resimply and I'm wrong about their customer service and it's just they have hiccups onboarding you, then let me know, because I definitely can see the benefit of a lot of their features and having things all in one place. But I definitely have some hesitation after dealing with them for a week and a half. Yeah, otherwise, ChatGPT, Jasper, you and I talked about this offline, working on building a custom GPT for my SOP, and it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be, or as ChatGPT told me it would be. So I know you've been through that, but you actually have now a searchable GPT for your SOP. But was it a little bit of back and forth and figuring it out yourself before you got it in order? Because that's what I'm finding is like I thought I had it all done, and then it wasn't all done, and now I'm having to go back and figure out how to actually do it. And the seems like the interface, just to upload your description and all the code and everything, seems like it's not just, quick and easy for me.
yeah.
I don't know if that's user error or if it's just that this is a new feature that they have and it's a little bit clunky still. What did
Yeah,
you find?
definitely take some time to get up and running, and it's still tweaking, like still have to make sure these answers that they're giving my team are correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall it's pretty good.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a cool thing that we now have the technology here to be able to, upload a document with our SOPs and have them create a searchable database from it. It's just not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And I asked ChatGPT, like, okay, this is what I want to do. How do I do it? And walk me through the steps. And I was like, and what's the level of difficulty? Can I do this myself? And they're like, oh yeah, you got this. And and yeah, I do got it, but it's more hours than I expected.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one thing I had for the week. And then yeah, other than that, we talked about stuff offline, hiring and firing and comping and stuff like that. Just I think comping for us needs to be more aggressive right now. We need to really be on the low side, as we've talked about last week about dispo and more challenges with dispo and buyers being more conservative. We just need to be more aggressive with our offers, staying low and keeping our max offer amount low, and not giving in to sellers who insist their property is worth whatever, because not all sellers fully realize that it's turning, the market is turning, that it's not a seller's market. It's, they're not going to be having as many offers and their offers are going to be lower.
Yeah.
But so it might take them a little time. Uh, yeah, I think that's everything I have. Yeah, all the stuff I made note of.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for going through the gauntlet on Simply so that I don't have to.
Does that totally turn you off to it?
Yeah, I mean, I already wasn't gonna do it, but if you had like an amazing experience, I was like, I might consider it, but definitely
Yeah.
not.
And so now I have like 5 days left on my trial and I have none of my data on the site. So
Yeah,
it's either me taking a big chunk of time to just figure it out on my own and get it on there, because they offer you unlimited chat, like you can chat on the live chat, or you can actually jump on a live Zoom. But I think that's only good once your payment clicks in, not in the free trial. But
yeah,
yeah, but then I'm thinking, like, he's saying, well, you can jump on a live Zoom with a rep anytime, and that sets us apart from everybody else's customer service. But I'm like, if I'm jumping on a live Zoom with these same people who've been talking to me on email and live chat, I don't care because they don't know anything. So what?
yeah.
It's like when I used to go to Home Depot as a carpenter, and somebody would ask me if they could help me, and I'd be like, I know more than you do about this stuff. Like you're not gonna you're not gonna help me. So anyway, that's just, it's frustrating when there's like an exciting possibility of an upgrade in CRM and features, and then there's a sort of a speed bump with the onboarding and customer service. But we don't have to dwell on that. Let's jump into your week, because you probably, I don't know what you did this week. You sold one with us. We did a JV deal, but you want to check in about your KPIs and week in business and highlights and lowlights and anything else?
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone listening in the chat, if you guys have a favorite CRM, drop it in the chat. Maybe we'll have to, someone drop that one that I sent to you after our last episode.
Yeah, in Velo.
Yeah,
I
maybe
looked.
I'll have to look into that one too.
Yeah, it doesn't have, it's not as feature rich as Resimply. It's more like a forefront thing.
Yeah,
It doesn't have the skip tracing and the list stacking and a lot of the stuff that appealed to me with Resimply, but it looks like it's a nice clean interface. But yeah, I've got a whole sheet. We've talked about this before, but I've got 15 or 20 CRMs on a sheet that I've test drove or checked out. So if
yeah,
anybody's wondering what my experience is, I can share it with you.
yeah. All roads lead back to Podio.
Audio's not perfect for sure.
I love it. I never want to leave, but no, we'll switch over. So yeah, for me this week, thank you for the JV opportunity. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was really fun, like selling that deal because I reconnected with this buyer. I guess I didn't even reconnect. I never talked to this buyer before. And so it was really kind of a fun like story. So I'll just share that real quick and I can go into the rest of the stuff. But anyway, so I think you guys sent that one over on Thursday and so I was looking at it and everything, and then I think we sent it out Thursday afternoon, I think. Uh, I don't remember the specifics, but anyways, we sent the deal out and did our usual process and all that stuff. And then one of the good things that I've noticed too that I just want to share, like when we send out this volume with the text blast, a lot of times I get people that are I don't think they're like wholesalers, but they might just be like other investors that are friendly and they like refer our deals to their investor friends. And so that happens probably at least every time I send a deal out, I get like one or two of those people where like they'll call me and like I can't find them anywhere on our CRM. Like I've never spoke to them, but they're like, hey, like I saw your deal on this street. And I was like, okay, like how'd you see it? And then they're like, oh, like my friend said it to me. I was like, okay. So anyways, that was the case here. And all of our buyers were like, no, 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 no. Like everyone's passed on it because, first of all, it's Rocky Mount. So that cuts out 99% of buyers. No one likes Rocky Mount. And then second of all, like you already shared, it's an older home. And then it's on the smaller side, being a two bed. And so that cuts out, a huge chunk of buyers right away. And so everyone was just like, no, 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 pass, pass, pass. And it's like we talked about this on the last episode, but we always try to get an offer from people. And in this case, like everyone's just like, no, like it's just a pass for me. Like I don't even want to get, I was just like, dang
Yeah.
it, because I was really hoping we could, sell it and do a deal together again. Anyways, and so like I didn't think I had any offers. And like you said, New Western passed on it too. And so I don't think I had any offers so far. And then, like I said, this dude called me and he said he saw it from someone else. So, I called him back and I get talking to this guy and he was just like very proud of, his business and what he's doing and stuff. And he's like, yeah, like check out our website. Like, I'm not scared of this property. Like we do huge remodels all the time. And he's like, check out my website. And I was like, okay, I was on the computer anyway. So I was like, I'll check out your website. And then I'm still talking to him and I go on his website and I'm like, wait a second. I'm scrolling through his website and he's got like before and afters. I'm like, wait a second, we sold this deal. And I was like, wait a second, we sold this deal. And ended up we sold like half the deals on his website to him. And it was interesting because I never spoke to this guy. And I was like, wait, so how did I sell you this deal? But I've never like met you before. And apparently his business partner was the one I was selling all these deals to. His business partner name is Scott. And this guy's name is not his real name, but he goes by Quan. Anyways, and so I had sold all these deals to Scott and they were partners. And so that explains that, right? But it turns out Scott passed away back in like
Oh, wow.
2020. Yeah, back in like 2022, he passed away. And that would explain it because I used to sell a lot of deals to this dude, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth, which happens all the time. Buyers just stop buying, they get into another business, they retire, they got enough money, whatever. And so I didn't think anything of it. And he passed away. And so I was like, man, that sucks. And so that explained that. Anyways, we got talking, and that built a little bit of trust too, because I was like, yeah, like we sold all these deals to Scott. And so at this point, we're kind of having a good rapport. Anyways, and so I had another deal in Rocky Mount, and I was like, yeah, you can go check out this property that I have in Rocky Mount. Like, that one's vacant, it's terrible. You can just walk through it, the door's unlocked. And I was like, for this one, we can't get you inside today, but you can just take a ride by. And then, if you're interested, we can schedule an appointment, obviously, because it's occupied. And so he drove by the first one and gave me an offer. It was a little bit, low on that first one that I had. And then he drove by, yours, and he offered, I think, 22 or something like that, something low. And then he came up with 25. And then I texted you guys, I was like, if I can get him up to 30, can we get this done? And so then I counted him at 35, and then he came up to 30 anyways after a little bit. And so yeah, we got it sold. But that was such a fun thing. So I thought that was really cool. Someone that like I technically like connected with years ago, but I never had met this dude. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's probably a good buyer for you going forward now that you made that connection, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you
And
were
it
one of
just
them.
like now re-engages that old buyer because like, they're partners, so they have like kind of the same buy box. And that guy, like I said, I used to sell deals to him a lot in Durham when I was like kind of just working in Durham. But now this guy has expanded to Rocky Mount. He apparently really likes Rocky Mount, and so I was like, okay, that's like a first. But
Yeah, I met a guy at a RIA event who was does a lot in Rocky Mount, and I've been kicking myself because it's one of those things where I met him and I think he gave me his business card and then I didn't transfer the information,
yeah,
because he like I met him at two or three events and he would always stand up when you stand up and introduce yourself and say, looking for deals in Rocky Mount, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, whatever. And he
yeah,
just like he would say the same thing every time. And I had his card and I had talked with him and I was like, who is that guy? When we had this deal, I was like, I can't
yeah.
remember. But maybe he'll turn up eventually and I'll find his card or his information in my phone or something. I don't know. But
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. But yeah, that was fun. So hopefully we can get that closed and hopefully sell more deals to this guy. So that was exciting.
yeah,
Um,
that's great.
yeah, so thank you for the opportunity with that one. That was awesome. And then we have sold three more deals this week, but one of those was a resale. So it's just another fail for me. I think it's literally every week at this point that I come on here and say the same thing. So, anyways,
They resold a deal.
yeah.
New
It's
Western Bell.
Yeah. And so, I mean, every week I share the reason why. And, I'll probably keep doing it again and again because I keep doing it. Because, like, if the seller is not under the gun to close and we have some time, like, I'll waste a week. I don't like doing it because it is a waste of time, but I'll waste a week to make an extra huge profit. In this case, New Western offered me 17,000 higher than my second best offer, right?
Wow.
And so that's like an entire deal in itself. And so I was
Yeah.
like, absolutely, I'll give you guys a shot, right? And he was confident in it. Like they always act so confident, and then they backed out on me. So, anyways, I sold the deal for 17,000 less this week. Thankfully, that buyer was still on the table, and we got that one resold, and then we sold two more. as well. So that was a week. In total, we sold four, including yours. And then we got two contracts and didn't close anything this week. So those are the numbers that we had this week. And then we were talking offline, but we welcomed a new team member. So that was a huge win for this week. And he didn't get one of those contracts this week. Those are both from my existing acquisitions, which we are going to relabel as home buying specialists anyways. But yeah,
Nice.
but they're already labeled that on our website. But just like going forward, that's what we're gonna, call them. And
Yeah,
so,
that's a good little thing because we've been trying to figure that out too. Because internally we call that person our closer, but you don't want to call that to the public because then they're like,
yeah,
oh, they're going to close me, right?
yeah,
So we call them acquisition specialist, but that's kind of generic. So
yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, so
good.
we're gonna use that going forward, just HBS for short, but we're gonna call them home buying specialists. It's already, like I said, on their website and with their bio, that's their title. But internally, we've been calling them acquisition. So I just want to kind of meld that and just make it one thing so that they don't get confused. If a seller ever asks or whatever, they can introduce himself that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, we onboarded a new home buying specialist this week. He started Monday and he's been doing great so far. He's got a bunch of leads, and I just love his attitude too. Like, he obviously wants to get a contract ASAP as well, and we all want that for him. But he's just like, yeah, man. I mean, I know I didn't get one this week, but I just look at it like I'm building up my leads, building up my pipeline. I was like, absolutely, man. So he's got a handful of hot leads, which we call them, leads that we think are going to sign within the next month already. And he's got a walkthrough scheduled for Tuesday for a DocuSign for a contract. And he's got one he did a walkthrough on this past week that's hopefully going to sign next week as well. So fingers crossed he'll get at least one next week, hopefully more. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, so far so good. So that's exciting.
When you say walkthrough, you mean he's just doing the live signing?
Yeah, we just, we do the DocuSign walkthrough with them on the phone
Yeah.
when they're ready to sign. So yeah, so I'm excited for next week. Hopefully that'll be the week he gets the first contract. But if not, it's all good. I just told him that this is our first month. It's just training and learning and everything. And next month we're expecting the best. We're expecting him to be on par with our rest of our closers, but our home buying specialists. But yeah, this month is just learning experience. So there's no pressure on him this month. So yeah. So there's that. And then this week we definitely had our fair share of challenges as well. We had one deal. I've been really high on the attorney that we switched to, and I won't name their name because we had a challenge this week, but you know who I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
so we switched to this attorney probably about 2 months ago now, and we've just been sending them all our deals, as we do, we switch to attorney. And so, anyways, we're kind of not on the chopping block, but we definitely are open to trying more attorneys. So that's always a frustration. But I did connect
I
with
did tell
another.
you I have mixed results with them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so, anyways, I'm not sure. I want to take the blame internally. I think it's our fault for this specific challenge that we had this week with this deal. I think we should have been more on top of the lender. That's a recent thing that we changed in our CRM as well to make sure we get the buyer's lender contact information directly so that we can stay on top of them because the title company never does, or the attorney, I should say, and the buyer sometimes doesn't either, which is frustrating, but that definitely happens. And so this week we had a deal scheduled to close on this coming Monday, and comes to Friday, and we had the seller docs in, buyer docs in, and everything. We thought we were good to go, and so we were just doing a follow up as usual, and just like, hey, all set to close on Monday, and just ask the buyer, can you go ahead and wire in funds today along with your lender? That way we can just record first thing, close on time. And she was like, yeah, I can. Let me just check with my lender. And so she reached out to the lender, and then she like forwards us an email or something. He's like super pissed, and he's like, no, I'm not ready to fund today. I don't have like any of the documents or any of the stuff. And I was just like, okay, that's really weird. Because this was like we've been in escrow, I think 3 weeks or so. It's not like it was a
Mm.
super super short turnaround. And so obviously, like I said, I want to take blame first, but my second blame is to the buyer. I think in this case, I'm like, why have you not sent anything to the lender? But then at the same time, why has the closing attorney not sent anything to the lender? Like that's just weird.
I mean, that's what it goes back to for me with that attorney is I don't know about the paralegals, but I've found inconsistency among paralegals, and there are a
Yeah,
number of them in that business. So you can get one who's totally on top of it, and you can get another one who drops the ball.
yeah,
That's been, you know, because they're a model of like doing a lot of volume, I think, and so I
definitely.
think paralegals maybe don't stay there either, like they cycle through. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's my impression. But yeah, the paralegal is the one who should in the attorney's office be coordinating with all the parties, right? And then
yeah,
in our businesses, it's the transaction coordinator. So between the two of those, everything should be. If we're taking responsibility, then it's our transaction coordination. If we're asking the attorney to take responsibility, then it's their paralegal, right? And
Yeah.
ultimately, attorneys should be checking in on deals that have been in escrow and set to close soon.
Yeah, and so I mean, it was just a little bit confusing all around because I was like, I don't want to immediately blame our transaction coordinator because it's my fault for not staying on top of it too. And so if she's not doing it, something I didn't train her on. But at the same time, I was confused that the documents went out to the buyer and the buyer signed the documents and just didn't review them. Apparently, that's what she told me because I spoke to the buyer and I'm like, where was the ball dropped here? And she was like, well, I didn't really review the documents. I just thought it was good. And I was like, okay, I always review documents when I buy a property, so it's like that's kind of weird. So that was kind of weird. And then, I think it's definitely a little bit on the paralegal. But then when I reached out to him, and the same thing, I was just trying to figure out like where's the ball dropped here. And he was like, well, usually when we work with a lender, like they send us their title requests, up front, and we do this. And he was like, they never sent it to me. And I was like, okay, well, you should have followed up, but
Yeah,
we should have followed up as well. And so I don't know, kind of weird all around. Like the lender never bothered to reach out. The buyer never bothered to tell the lender that we're closing on this date. Like he didn't even know the closing date, so that's really weird. But we didn't bother to reach out to the lender directly, so that's our fault. So, anyways, it was just a complicated mess, kind of.
yeah.
But
When the paralegal says they normally send it to us, but they didn't, and you're
yeah,
3 weeks in, that's
yeah.
your job to be like, hey, we're 3 weeks in, we don't have this. Maybe we should follow up.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah. So that was weird. But anyways, we're definitely going to be looking for new closing attorneys, and then also, like you said, probably going to reach out to the owner of this company and see if we can possibly work with a different paralegal going forward. Because I think maybe that was an issue as well. But the challenge there was obviously that, or we're not going to be able to close on Monday, and then the lender just threw a huge fit because of the issues and stuff, and so he was like, "I'm not closing this deal with this closing attorney, period." And so if you want to close, you have to close with this closing attorney.
uh,
And I was like, okay. And so now we're transitioning to a double close, right? Because we don't want to let the seller down. He's expecting money on Monday, so we're going to buy the property on Monday. But now we're having to double close it, and this was an estate file and a bunch of extra fees. And so essentially, the long story short, we're losing about $3,500, that we wouldn't have lost. So that hurts. And like I said, it's my fault. We should have been on top of the lender, but I do feel like there's a little bit of blame on the closing attorney here, on the paralegal at least. So we're definitely looking elsewhere. But yeah, so we'll hopefully buy it on Monday and hopefully sell it on Friday because we had to get the whole process started with a new attorney. So hopefully we'll be able to close that on the backside on Friday.
and the
Um,
buyer's engaged enough that you're comfortable closing it and holding that property for 5 days, and that you're going to be able to.
yeah, I mean, I honestly hope that she doesn't buy it. It's a fantastic deal. So I would just list it on the market or flip it or something myself.
Okay.
And so yeah, I'm disappointed in the buyer as well because that's just frustrating. And I almost wanted to ask her to cover all that money that we're having to kind of quote unquote lose. But it's like sometimes I feel bad doing that because obviously we're making a profit on the deal. But at the same time, like I said, I don't know exactly whose fault it was because I think it was our fault as well. So I don't want to ask for that. But yeah, I don't know. So we're not going to ask for that. But hopefully we'll close it next week. If not, like I said, we'll flip it. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, there was that, and then we had another one this week with tenants, which was really fun. I don't need to share the full story, but it's probably pretty short, long story short. But
Hmm.
basically, we had this property under contract. Tenants were supposed to be living in the property, and they weren't paying rent, obviously. So we're like, okay, we're gonna have to go through an eviction, and then we go to the property to deliver notice to vacate. Turns out the tenant that's not paying rent to our seller is subleasing the property to another tenant.
Ah,
so and so there's another tenant there that doesn't know who we are, of course, doesn't know the seller. They thought the other person owns the property because they lied to them. And so they're literally
wow.
subleasing the property to this person. And so now it's just a huge mess. And Giselle, our transaction coordinator, she's very sweet and she feels bad for this person. And I guess I do too. But really it's this tenant's fault, not the one who's living there, but the one who's subleasing. And so, anyways, we were helping the seller with an eviction, but now we realize that the tenant's not even there. And so I don't know how that would go. I assume they would still evict them because they're there unlawfully, they don't have a lease. But anyways, the court date for the seller is on the 21st. Shout out to Giselle for helping with that. She did everything. She got the paperwork online. She filled it out for the seller because the seller is elderly. She had our friend Jonathan go to the courthouse and file it for her, so the seller didn't have to do that. So, everything. like RE simply would say, white glove service. But but yeah, so she was just crushing it on this deal, and then come to find out this stuff. So we tried to help her. We sent her a few rental options this week that she can move to in the area, hopefully. And so hopefully it doesn't have to come to forcibly removing her because she does have kids and family there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, she's there not illegally. She's there illegally, so she does have to leave. And so we're trying to help her, like I said, find a spot. But if not, we're probably gonna have the sheriffs do what they do and evict her. So there's that. But that was my first time I think ever running into that. I've had squatters before and stuff, but this literally the tenant subleased the property, acting as the owner to a random other person. I was like, wow.
That's so gangster.
Yeah.
Like
And
you're
so,
not paying rent in the first place, and then you
yeah,
go and you
yeah.
rent it out to somebody else. That's just
And then when she's collecting that rent, she's not paying it back. So she's just making money. So I don't know how much she's charging her. We didn't ask her, but I'm assuming she's making $1,000 a month, probably something like
man.
that. So I'm thinking, like, is she doing this on multiple properties? Like, is that so?
That's a wild business model. But yeah,
Yeah,
she could
man.
be doing it on multiple properties. Like get in the property with no lease agreement or whatever, and then just sublease it and go to the next one, right? It's like house
Yeah,
hacking, but a little bit
yeah.
different. Oh my God. So that
Crazy.
means the seller could probably sue her and try
Yeah,
and collect some of that money, but there's no proof of there's no paper
yeah,
trail.
yeah. And
I
she
mean,
probably doesn't have much
you
money
get
to
an
collect.
affidavit from the woman who's subletting, right? That I paid this much to this person over this amount of time. And
Yeah,
then you take that affidavit and you could sue the tenant and try and get some money out of it.
yeah,
Probably prosecute them criminally.
yeah, probably.
That's insane.
Because they're acting illegally as the owner of the property. That's just
Yeah,
crazy, crazy stuff. But
that's wild.
yeah, that's the type of stuff we see in real estate, So, but that was
Well,
my
it's
first
like
time with this
it kind
scenario.
of dovetails with my story earlier of evicting somebody and then him coming back to try and buy the house.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy, crazy the stuff we see in real estate. Man. It's crazy. I never would have expected this when I got into it, but but yeah, so that was kind of one of our other challenges this week. And then, we have a bunch of other stuff, but it's nothing too exciting. We have one estate deal that we sent to this attorney months ago, and there's still no progress on that. So that's frustrating. And something that we paid a lot of money for up front. So that's frustrating. And then we have another one with a divorce, which we also paid for, that's still not really making progress. So that's, it'll be nice to get some of that money back with those, but it's definitely not gonna be August, but maybe September, maybe not. Hopefully just before
Yeah.
the end of the year. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see when we can close those. But you know how that goes. I don't need to go
Oh,
into those.
I've got a couple of those. One of them I think is closing this week, but the other one is just it'll close whenever it closes,
Yeah.
if it ever closes.
Yep. But on the divorce one, they served the guy divorce papers. This is the guy I told you about a long
This is
time.
the crazy elderly criminal,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, so
felon.
his court date for all of his criminal charges was this past week. And so they served him, obviously he was going to be there, so they served him with divorce papers while he's getting prosecuted for all these charges.
Yeah, as if he's not getting enough. He's
Yeah.
facing criminal charges, and then bam.
I feel bad for the guy, but it's like he did it to himself. He's the one, like I said, I shared his rap sheet, but he's like assaulting women, there's battery charges, there's all kind of charges. And so it's like, he did it to himself. And so yeah, he got slapped with a divorce on top of all that. Oh man, but yeah, so he's got 30 days to respond, and then like I said, that's why I hope that one could possibly close in September. If he doesn't respond or anything, I think we can just proceed with the divorce. So we'll see how that goes. But that's my week in business pretty much. So
Sweet.
yeah. And yeah, this week we got a few closings lined up, so hopefully those will go well. I shared that one that we can hopefully close the backside out on Friday, so we can hopefully close that this coming week, and then we're actually buying one in Fayetteville this week, and then I'm going to do like a light flip on that one. So we'll see how that goes. I've heard, all my buyers tell me the market is terrible right now, so we'll see how that goes. But
Yeah.
we got a pretty good deal on it, so hopefully we can make it's like a risk. I shared, I guess I'll just share it. If anyone has any questions, just drop them in the chat. But I shared earlier this year, I did another flip and I shared with you the results afterwards, and I would have just been better off wholesaling it. And so hopefully that's not the case here. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, with this one, like I sent it out wholesale and we had some good offers from it. And I had a high offer from New Western, but like I've said, I don't trust their offers at all. So it's like when I get an offer from them that's high, like I'm not even counting that. But I did get an offer from a solid buyer that would have net us a profit of 20K. I just think we can make more on the market. And so hopefully I'm right. And we'll see like if after all expenses and months on the market and stuff, I make 30K, I'll be super, disappointed. But if we can make, double the profit on the wholesale, then I would be happy with that. So hopefully we can do that.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be great.
yeah, so we'll see.
It's
We'll
worth
see
a
how it
shot.
goes. Yeah, it's worth a shot. Like my other one was like in early spring and now we're in fall. So we'll see if the market's better or worse or how things go. But yeah, we'll see. I'll report back on how that one goes. Um, and yeah, I mean, with that, I guess we'll just move on to, I think we had one question this past week from our past video. So we could move on to that. And then, like I said, anyone who's here with us live, just drop your questions, comments, and favorite CRMs in the chat.
Yeah, let's chat.
Yeah.
I'll go into the community tab here on YouTube. We got Barrel Tactical 6153. Question: what is the process to virtually inspect homes? Do you just have sellers send pictures, or do you use any specific companies? We love it when sellers will send us pictures. Sometimes they will, if you ask them. I've had really cooperative sellers, and when you're like, "Do you have any pictures?" and they're like, "Oh yeah, I got some pictures," or I'll take some for you, no problem. I've gotten really good pictures from sellers on occasion, and that is wonderful when it happens, right? Because
Yeah.
then you just have pictures like instantly or very fast, and you don't have to spend any money on it. But then if you do have to spend money, then Jasper posted a comment in here. We like Investor Boots, Bootz, and also Jasper uses Velocity REOs, and you can hire a boots on the ground person through those platforms and send them out there to do photos, videos, lockbox, all that stuff. And and then Jasper, you have just a couple of, I guess another way to go about it is just post on Craigslist or Thumbtack or Nextdoor or something like that, and say, hey, I need photos of this property, or I need a lockbox, and see if you get responses there. You can do it that way, right?
Yeah.
Another way to go. And we've done it that way where you like find the local Lowe's or the local Home Depot, and you call up and you buy a lockbox and have it at the will call, and they go pick up the lockbox and do it. You can do it that way. It's just, you might save a few bucks, but at this point it's not that much money to pay Investor Boots or Velocity REOs to do it. And
Yeah.
Velocity REO is actually cheaper than Investor Boots, right?
Much
If you,
cheaper. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, why don't you share your experience with Velocity REOs and your boots on the ground people that you have, Jasper?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the same thing that you said, but yeah, I mean, to find boots on the ground, if you want to do like repeat business with people, like if you're in a local market, I think it's worth it to build that relationship because then you can have them do things for you, whether it's checking in on properties, lock boxes, pictures, signings, whatever. I recommend 123 Notary for that .com, so 123notary.com, and you can go on there, type in city, zip code, county, state. I think you can type in any of those things, and then it'll show you notaries nearby. And like I said, only worth it if you're doing something locally where you want to build a long-term relationship. But if you do, reach out to the list of people, just talk to them, tell them what you do in the area, that you're an investor, all this stuff, and see who seems like the best person to work with. And then you can just, typically notaries will just charge you by the hour. And so if you have them do something for 30 minutes, they'll only charge you half an hour. It's not usually that expensive. So that's a good way to do it if you're trying to build a relationship. And then if not, like you said, Velocity REOs is great. Asking the seller to send you pictures is great. But in terms of like, I would rank it. So like Velocity REOs is going to be, I wouldn't say like the worst quality, but kind of the worst quality. Like the pictures aren't blurry. I'm not going to say that, but the pictures are small. So that's one thing that's a little bit disappointing. Like their pictures, I think, are 840 by 680 or something like that. So they're not like full blown high res pictures. So you kind of get what you pay for. I think it's like $30 to do it with them. So we still use them, but it's not going to be like high quality pictures. So if you were trying to list a property on the market, definitely don't use them. But if you're just trying to get a picture of the property, see what it looks like, they're definitely a good option. And you can sign up with them. I think they charge $15 to sign up, and then you just pay per order after that. Um, and then Investor Boots, which you already mentioned, is a step above. Like if we were ranking them, so Investor Boots is going to give you high quality pictures, usually like with an iPhone camera, something that looks good, and they're going to send you a lot of pictures. I've noticed they send a lot more pictures than Velocity REOs, so that's a step above, but it is more expensive.
Yeah.
So
They have a nice protocol too. Like they'll send you the protocol that they're giving the person who goes out there and which photos they want. It's similar to the one you have internally in your business, Jasper, with like water heater under the sink, HVAC system. They take pictures of all the important elements plus all the rooms and up the street, down the street, front and back. So they have a
yeah,
nice SOP for the people who are subcontracting with them, which I appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. And I should have mentioned, for the person who asked the question, Velocity REOs and Investor Boost both work similarly, where you provide the contact information and they'll do everything else for you. So you don't have to schedule the appointment. They'll handle that stuff for you. And like you said, investor base is definitely a step above by far. And they can also do a bunch of other stuff, not just pictures. They can do video walkthrough, they can do floor plan for you, they can do notary signings, pretty much everything. So
Lockbox too.
yeah,
Yeah.
lock boxes. So yeah, that's a great resource. And then I'll just share it just in case. But if you ever want to do like listing pictures, I use a website called Home Jab, and they do like super high res, so it's even a step above that, but it's more expensive. So if you want to do an MLS listing is the only time I would use this. I wouldn't really use this for your buyer list. But yeah, they do really high quality pictures. They can do drone shots for you. They can do drone videos for you, and they can do virtually staged photos. So they can edit them to make it look like there's couches and beds and stuff in the room. So that's helpful. But like I said, only if you're doing an MLS listing is that worth it. I would recommend the other ones that we shared for doing wholesale deals and stuff. So yeah, good question.
Yep. Let's see what else we got in here. Where can we find the company map? Not sure what that question is, but let us know and we'll get back to it.
Yeah,
I
I'll
don't know.
reply to that one. I don't know. Do you see my reply on your end? I don't know if it posted.
No, I have a reply from me. I don't see a reply from you, Jasper.
Yeah, I tried to reply to that one, but anyways, I can send it to my dad and he can drop it in the comments or something of this episode. But I actually made a quick video, it's just like 2 minutes long, just showing exactly how to set up that map. And so if you want, I can just send you the Loom video. You can post it in the comments or something.
You're talking about just how your company works?
No, on our last episode, I think we mentioned how we both have the company map that shows our closed deals. And so
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
couldn't figure out what he was asking. Yeah, I got it.
yeah, so I made a quick Loom video just for my team on how to create one. So it's literally like 2 minutes, but I'll just send that to you and you can post it in the chat or
Yeah,
something.
and it's just a Google widget that you embed, right? I mean, that's
Yeah. Yeah, you can just go on Google Maps and make one for free. And then yeah, you just embed it on your website if you have a website. So
yeah, yeah. So it's pretty easy to do. Yeah. If you send it to me, Jasper, I'll post it in the show notes. But I might have an SOP for it too, but it's just based on Google Maps, and then you can drop pins for your properties. I think you put a list of your properties, right, and then it'll drop pins for you.
yeah, yeah, you can just plug in literally any address, in the world, then it'll just add it there. And you
Yeah,
can
and so then you end up with, if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, you end up with a cool little widget that you can put on your email signature or on your website, and it shows the area that you work in, and it's got pins for all the properties you've closed. And it's just, it's kind of impressive if you've closed properties. And as Jasper said before, um, if you're working with a seller who's in the area where you've already closed deals, you can show them that map and be like, look, we closed this, this, and that nearby. Definitely a good idea to go with us because we know what we're
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
uh, okay, where can we find the company map? Do you guys think people go on Investor Lift, write down all the properties, and then wait a few months and reach out to the seller after the contract expires? This was based on Jasper had a bad experience with Investor Lift and felt like people were stealing his deals when he was posting them on there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so you're no longer on Investor Lift because of that, right? You felt like you were posting deals and then your sellers were getting contacted by other buyers.
Yeah, and just to answer the question, I think I tried to post a response, but I don't know if it posted either. But
Yeah, you did post a response here.
okay, well, I'll just answer it live anyways. But yeah, when I was on Investor Lift, to be fair, that this was years ago, so they might have improved by now. And I do know what he was talking about it when he commented as well. They do have a feature now where when you request the address, it says like you can be sued if you go around and this person, and you can be sued for up to 75K, I think. And so they do that to scare people, but I don't think that works. One of my friends is on there now, and he's had a pretty good experience. He's definitely shared with me that he's lost some deals on there as well.
It's
But
expensive too, right? Investor Lift is not cheap.
yeah, they have 3 tiers. I don't know the exact pricing. I mean, I don't want to say something wrong, but I think it's like 5K, 15K, and then 35K or something per year. So I think those are the levels of Investor Lift.
Yes, that's not cheap. That's spending a
Yeah,
chunk of money to be able to post.
definitely. Yeah. So yeah, when I first signed up, I signed up for the lowest plan, the $5,000 one, and I think I was able to get a partial refund because I canceled fairly quickly within like 2 to 3 months. But yeah, I posted a bunch of deals on there, and I just had a really bad experience with They weren't waiting until my contract expired. They were just contacting the sellers immediately and trying to steal a deal. So yeah,
That's too bad.
yeah. But that was before they did that thing which I just shared, where you have
Yeah,
to
and that's what the
request.
Surfing 101 said. Don't they sue people for 100K for doing that?
Yeah.
Um,
So hopefully that helps in the future. But yeah, I'm not at the time. Right now, I'm not interested in going back to them. We have a pretty good digital process. So
yeah, and I doubt anybody is winning those lawsuits because
yeah, yeah,
that's like chasing, going down a rabbit hole. You have to prove that they did it and they got it off Investor Lift, and it's not a lawsuit you're likely to win, and you're going to spend a lot of money on attorneys trying to do so and a lot of time. It's in my opinion, anyway. And then, yeah, I think that's all the stuff we had here on the comments that, since the last episode. So,
awesome.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I appreciate everyone who's left questions on our past episodes. If you're here with us live, you can drop a question now, and if you're watching this back, just drop it in the comments, and we'll get to it on the next show.
Yeah. I don't have anything else unless you do, Jasper. If nobody's got any comments or questions, I think we're just going to wrap it.
Yeah, we can wrap it up here. So yeah, like I said, just drop your questions on this episode once it's posted, and we'll get to it on the next episode. And we'll be back next week live, same time, 12 o'clock Eastern. So yeah, feel free to tune in live and bring your questions.
Yep.